Ladies and gentlemen, it is happening. They're already turning on each other. It doesn't take much. About 8 months ago, James Clapper they were pressing Clapper on why he engaged in a Mueller probe when there was why he engaged in a Russia probe when there was no evidence, when there was no reason to think that Trump was working with Russia. There was no direct link. There was no direct evidence. I wrote about this in The Federalist. The article's below. And he goes to Chuck Todd. He says, well, we don't have any real link. Oh, no, that's Brennan. Clapper's like, oh, there's no, Chuck, we have no indication that Trump worked with Russia. But they still investigated anyway, based on a dossier purchased by Clinton. Now they're pressing Brennan, and this is absolutely hilarious, because John Brennan is now blaming James Comey. So he's turning on James Comey. President Clapper basically said, well, it was President Obama's fault. But the difference now being that there's a criminal investigation. So there's an actual criminal probe that John Durham is engaged in. This is just hilarious. So let's read this. This is absolutely hilarious. FBI was taking the lead. John Brennan distances himself from the FISA report. Former Director John Brennan disassociated himself on Friday from the forthcoming Justice Department watchdog report on alleged government surveillance violations. During an appearance on MSNBC, Brennan emphasized, quote, the FBI was taking the lead. What does that mean? That means Comey and McCabe. On securing Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants to wiretap one-time Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, a process that was scrutinized in Inspector General Michael Horowitz's recently completed investigation into possible surveillance violations. Well, of course, there were surveillance violations. So then, because it's a law enforcement matter, the surveillance that took place was Peter Strzok and McCabe and Comey. It wasn't necessarily Brennan's agency, because Brennan's agency works more overseas and outside of the United States. At least that's what they're supposed to do. Brennan acknowledged that his agency might have known something about Page if his name came up. Carter Page, if his name came up in some type of intelligence community report, adding, they would have been immediately shared with the FBI. Carter Page was an American citizen suspected of being a Russian operative as part of the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign, called Crossfire Hurricane. But he was never charged with any wrongdoing. Brennan, who was the director during President Obama's administration, was interviewed after it was revealed an FBI lawyer is under criminal investigation for allegedly altering a document related to the wiretapping of Carter Page. Okay, so the lawyer is Kevin Kleinsmith, who was already implicated in a whole bunch of things with Peter Strzok. The lawyer was identified as Kevin Kleinsmith, who left the Bureau 2 months after being interviewed by Horowitz. And if he's smart, he flips and sings. They all talked about, oh yeah, this person's going to flip and sing on Trump. Trump never did anything. He just won. Like, Democrats think that Trump's personality is an actual entity. They actually believe that his personality commits crimes, engages in wrongdoing. His personality. But that's not the case. He just won the election. And he won the election, and now the economy is great, and he's scaling back U.S. foreign policy, and they still don't get it. Like, so what? We can't stand his personality. Well, too bad. Get used to it. That doesn't mean you have to set up and frame the guy. Earlier in the day, Fox News aired an interview in which President Trump claimed that high-level officials were engaged in surveillance on his campaign and invoked Brennan's name. Among others, former Representative Trey Gowdy has suggested Brennan's emails with then FBI Director James Comey regarding the use of British Christopher Steele unverified dossier could be a focus of Horowitz's inquiry. Of course. Do you think Michael Horowitz, most importantly, do you think John Durham doesn't know what's going on? Of course he does. John Durham knows exactly what's going on. He helped take down very corrupt FBI officials in Boston. And that was a time at the Boston FBI where you had certain people literally working with criminal organizations. They were actually some of the biggest criminals, okay? And Durham put them behind bars. You don't think that he knows what's going on? Of course he does. Of course Comey's entire life, Brennan's entire life is predicated upon plausible deniability. The issue of plausible deniability. What they can deny, what they can say, well, I didn't know, we didn't know, we were just doing our jobs. But here's John Brennan, and this is why he really can't evade justice, and why even if he blames Comey, and James Comey can turn on Brennan also. Comey's hilarious. He has the goods on everyone, especially Clinton, who's running again. All of this is for Clinton 2020. But listen to this. This is John Brennan when asked about evidence.
Did you find direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin in Moscow while you were there?
Mr. Rooney, I never was an FBI agent. I never was a prosecutor, so I really don't do evidence. I do intelligence throughout the course of my career.
I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. What are you talking about? Intelligence, what good is intelligence if there are no facts? It's just gossip and hearsay. You want to utilize hundreds of millions and billions and trillions of dollars, and most importantly, you want to risk American lives based on hearsay and gossip and innuendo and conjecture and dossiers that are purchased by Clinton? You want to plunge the country into a new Cold War because of intelligence but not evidence? This is him testifying. You heard it from the Brennan's mouth.
Did you find direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin in Moscow while you were there?
Mr. Rooney, I never was an FBI agent. I never was a prosecutor, so I really don't do evidence. I do intelligence throughout the course of my career.
So this is a Huffington Post link on YouTube. Former director John Brennan testifies on collusion with Russia. And it's really unbelievable because you have a situation where this man actually admits that there is no evidence. He says, I don't do evidence, I do intelligence. He's admitting that it's a bunch of nonsense. So when Dr. Fiona Hill, and I did a segment on this yesterday, she actually admits that they're not certain about that Russia interfered in the election. That's the intelligence. So she says, well, the intelligence agencies confirmed. No, they didn't. They confirmed only a level of confidence. That's it. They're very certain that they're not certain. That's it. That's the only thing that's taking place here. They're certain that they're not certain. That's it. There are warranty disclaimers that come with the ODNI and DHS reports. They can just read the reports. Such judgments might be wrong. High confidence assessments might be wrong. So you have Brennan now. He knows that Durham is looking at intent. He knows that Durham that understands very well these people utilize their posts to implement a grandiose investigation based on nothing but a dossier that is completely and utterly debunked. When people say, well, the dossier has been proven, Russia interfered. Well, we don't know that either. Okay, that is not true. When anyone says, I would love to debate anyone who thinks that Russia interfered, because I want them to explain how Clinton still got the popular vote. And I want them to explain how many votes were altered in swing states. If they can't give a number, they can't win the argument. And if Russia interfered, it hurt Clinton. Well, how did it hurt? Why would the DNC emails have hurt Clinton? Oh, that's right. What is they cheated Bernie? This is so obvious. It's like a man being caught with another woman in his wife's own bed, and then the wife opens the door, and then the man says, the Russians wanted you to know. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Well, obviously, or you could replace Putin for whatever. The nosy neighbor wanted you to know he's just upset with us, and, his tree is, hanging over our property, and this is all a plot by him to make to sow divisiveness in our marriage. It's like, no, you're in you're in the bedroom with another woman. You know what I mean. Anyway, the point is, what they've done is they've circumvented their own misconduct, wrongdoing, criminal behavior. They've cloaked, they've masked, they've justified cheating Bernie Sanders by saying, well, it was really a Russian plot to inform the country that Bernie was cheated. That's why Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. Then it goes on, the FISA report has, and it's supposed to come out December 9th. FISA report come out so far, which claims Horowitz found, okay, The FISA report, tentatively, Brennan said he would reserve judgment on specific officials' behavior. So here's the interesting thing that they found. The FISA report is going to list a whole bunch of criminal activity, a whole bunch of misconduct, breaking of rules and protocol, and then it'll say, well, there wasn't really animus, or there wasn't really, bias against Trump. Durham, that's a different issue. Durham can look at how government officials utilize documents and utilize protocol and utilize their posts, especially officials that actually. So if Kleinsmith, if you have Kevin Kleinsmith that, so allegedly it's possibly Kevin Kleinsmith, the agent who falsified the documents. Horowitz might say, well, we don't know if it was because of his dislike of Trump, but he did falsify the documents. But we don't know what made him do so. Durham knows exactly what made him do so. Because he's a prosecutor and he already put FBI agents in prison. So he knows exactly what's going on. But see, again, the Durham probe is not going to end until after the election. I don't see the Durham probe ending until after the election. Because there's always going to be more information coming out. But this report supposedly the Horowitz coming from, the type of modifications. The question is when it was done and why was it done? Yeah, right. Then Brennan says no evidence Ukrainians revered aside from Democrats finding information on Manafort, reaching out and finding information on Manafort. So Brennan is the same person who is praising the intelligence operative for complaining about Trump's conversation. So, and then he goes, well, we didn't want to arm the Ukrainians because only Trump provided lethal assistance. So they go back and forth. They say, well, we're tough on the Russians. Then Trump, actually, Ukraine and Russia have, conflict. Trump is the only person the president that gave lethal aid. President Obama did not. Then Brennan today says, well, we didn't want to give Ukrainians technology because it would get in the hands of the Russians. So they always have a ridiculous answer to everything. But this is just funny. He's already blaming Comey. Horowitz's job is he's not going to assign intent. The intent is obvious. The issue of motive is obvious. Horowitz is going to document, and he actually already stated that McCabe should be indicted, and actually Comey should be indicted. Comey wasn't indicted, very likely because the Durham probe is ongoing. McCabe, he lied 3 times under oath with the intent to deceive because his wife received hundreds of thousands of dollars from Terry McAuliffe and Democratic PACs. So this is all documented. So Horowitz has done a pretty decent job. When you look at what's taking place, it's now a matter of political will, but it's also a matter of John Durham and his probe. There's a criminal investigation ongoing. It is now a full-fledged criminal investigation. Takes time. Takes a lot of time. And again, John Durham already was engaged in this type of investigation. Government officials already were put behind bars. So it's just a matter of time. Clinton's going to run again. The DNC primary is complete and utter fabricated theatrical performance. But see, look, John Brennan disassociated himself Friday from the forthcoming Justice Department, saying that the FBI was taking the lead. He's already trying to throw Comey under the bus, which is hilarious. And so you have McCabe, who will almost certainly be front and center in this IG report. You have Strzok. Now you have Kleinsmith, a new character. And you have more and more people now in the line. And you have even more anti-Trump text messages from Strzok, who said, "We will stop Trump." So, I mean, look, who knows? If he starts indicting people, they're going to say, "Oh, well, he's interfering in the election." Who knows what's going to take place? The one thing we know is that President Trump's going to win. I called this in 2017. Clinton 2020 is a reality. Get ready for 8 years of Trump. And that's the article's below. But let's see. Let's just read a couple. So John Brennan is already blaming Comey, which is so hilarious. It's so hilarious. So if you type in John Brennan, all right. So give me your thoughts below. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. And it's really interesting too because you have there's so much evidence now. We didn't know that documents were falsified. Now we do. There's probably a whole mountain of incriminating details regarding Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, all of them. Give me your thoughts below. Brennan is now turning on Comey. He wants nothing to do with the FISA. Look, it's not my fight. It's not my issue. It's not my problem. Give me your thoughts. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel right this second. Thank you.